Hi guys. So this is my lesson. My lesson is about the standard relating to humans and their relation to animals, and basically how we adapt to survive and how they adapt to survive, and kind of the similarities and differences between them. So my lesson um, is day one of a unit plan project. So it is pretty simple, straightforward. Um, some of the deriving questions: what makes humans different from animals? What makes humans similar from animals? Um, and my objectives are that students will be able to identify similarities between animals and humans, identify differences between animals and humans, and then, of course, reflect on their learning and give feedback. Um, so, basically, materials are really simple. I did a read aloud with a book, The Big Book of Animals, which I don't have with me. I have this book at school, so I really wanted to do like a read aloud portion for this video, um, which I'm gonna have to change up because I don't have that book right now. Um, then I also want a large whiteboard with a dry erase marker, 15 copies of the Venn diagram worksheet, and 15 pencils. So this lesson really relies heavily on class discussion. That's a big part of it. So to show you the Venn diagram worksheet, I created this myself, and it's titled Animals versus Humans, How Are We Similar and How Are We Different? Um, and down here offers students an opportunity to draw a picture of themselves and then draw a picture of an animal that they choose, which I think is engaging and exciting for them. They can use colored pencils, whatever they want to color it in or draw. And so on this side, they would list, similarities, differences. Oh, I'm sorry. That's totally wrong. On this side, they would list some things, some qualities that animals have, some qualities that humans have, and then our similarities. Um, so it starts out with a read aloud, which is really simple, straightforward. It says the students are sitting on the carpet. I'm sitting, right in front of them, and we're doing a read aloud and a discussion about the book, some things that they notice about animals, things like that. So the idea of the book for me is to expose students to different types of animals, to get their minds thinking in that mindset. So when they move on to their worksheet, they do have some thoughts and ideas about how are we similar and how are we different to a particular animal. Not just a dog or a cat or an animal that they're specifically familiar with in their life, polar bears or lions or things like that. So the guided discussion portion is kind of what I'm going to be teaching to you all. So I don't have a whiteboard here with me at home, but I did find this pretty cool app that allows you to kind of draw on it like it is a whiteboard. So to get started, this section would be about 15 minutes long with student interaction, I feel like. And I think it'll definitely be quicker here in my home where I'm not able to interact with students particularly. But, so in a perfect world, I would be standing at a whiteboard in front of the class. They would be sitting at assigned tables that are broken up into, social differences, what kids work together well, things like that. And I'd say something like, during the book, I noticed that there were some similarities between humans and animals, and there were some differences. Can anyone raise their hand to tell me what similarity means? What does similarity mean? Someone raises their hand and say, wow, great job, Susie. Thank you for raising your hand. What do you think? And so, as Susie's talking, I would write, kind of hard with my computer. And I would listen as I'm writing. Okay, so you think similarity means the same, is what you're saying. The same, which is right. Great job. So similarity means some things that are the same between two things. So So the book also showed a lot of differences. Does anyone know what differences mean? Can anyone raise their hand and tell me what the word difference means? Totally drawing a blank on if it was an A or an E. Differences. And I would kind of listen. Bobby, thank you so much for raising your hand. I love to see that. Can you tell me what differences mean? Okay, so you're saying it's different. So what do you think when you think of the word different? What would that be? I would kind of listen, ask some guiding questions. So different means they're not alike, and so you're right. They're not the same. Not the same. So when you think about some differences and some similarities between animals and people, there are a few. And I think we'll kind of notice there's a lot more the same than there is different. So can anyone think of anything in our book that we read? Some things that are the same and some things that are different between animals and humans. And I would kind of engage in discussion, hopefully someone would call something out or. So I wear clothes to keep me warm. What do animals wear to keep them warm? Do they wear clothes? So that might be something different. They do not wear clothes. And so hopefully that would lead to a discussion about, well, they don't wear clothes, but they do have fur to keep them warm. So we both have hair. A lot of animals and, humans are similar because they have hair. Do we have legs? Do they have legs? Probably not, but we both move. With limbs, And so this discussion, I would really guide with a lot of questions like, well, what would happen if they didn't have clothes on? Like, how do they stay warm? Move with limbs. So that's kind of like a pretty strong vocabulary word that they might not totally get, but I think we could talk about it. Do they have a house? We might not both have houses, but we both live in our environment. And so this would be a kind of a discussion that we would have as a group. I would be sure to, call on students that I feel want to be called on, for one. It's when you're calling someone out. But I think it's important to make eye contact with those students that, might feel a little awkward answering out. They're not totally comfortable with that type of presence in the classroom, but you can say, kind of look and say, well, what do you think? And that's important to include all students in that discussion. And I think it's kind of an environment where this whole class discussion can become awkward for some students, and I try to keep that in mind when I'm thinking of my lesson plans. So I think it's important to also offer students an opportunity to talk within small groups, so at their table. So down here, once we finish with this group discussion, they are given the worksheet and they have time to, work on the worksheet. And I think it's important to encourage small discussion during this time. Can you tell Bobby what you're drawing? Like, what are some similarities that you have? And so facilitating that kind of discussion within small groups is important as well, which is something that I would do. Another important thing is the self-reflection. It's a big part of my lesson. I use the same self-reflection for every lesson plan. It looks like this. This is something that I created the beginning of my time here at UMA. I created this, and I've used this to add on to every lesson. Most of my lesson plans are around, kindergarten to second grade, because that's kind of what I'm hoping for in teaching, is that I would be teaching that grade. So I did use these emotions. Rather than having them write how they felt, I think it's important for them to see some kind of picture or, display of how angry looks. Like, when you look at these, how do you feel? What was the favorite part of this activity? Is there anything you disliked or something you wish we did? What is one thing that challenged you during this activity? So I like this end of the class reflection that I created, and I think I will use this in my classroom once that time comes. Right now I work in a preschool classroom, so, you know, we obviously wouldn't do something like this. But I think even just this portion with the faces could be a great addition to even a preschool classroom. Like when you wrote your name, how did you feel? Did it make you happy? Were you anxious? Were you angry? Were you sad? Something like that. All right, so yeah, that is my lesson. Let me know if you have any suggestions or comments or questions. One thing that I try to think about for first grade that I would love your opinion on is that this lesson is 45 minutes long. Is that too long for a first grade science lesson? What do you guys think about that? Yeah, I feel like it's broken up fairly well. We have a 10-minute read aloud, then you have a guided group discussion, then you have some time to work on a worksheet, and just a small end of class reflection. So do you guys think that this would be too long for a first grade classroom? What do you think? I hope you all had a great weekend.